And you're talking to me about nepotism. I'm born and bred here. It took me 7 years to get a movie made. You know that. She came and
I
made
made
it
my
before.
first film before. I did. I felt bad for them
And
because they
people-
were as excited. For them, they are
And
also
their
being
parents
launched.
and their thing.
And they were
robbed
completely
of that.
sidelined.
And that's not fair. I mean, I think I'm spoiled. I think it might be difficult.
Please take me back to the time when, what's your first earliest memory of reading Archies?
What can I say? Borrowing it from a library. I think, that paying that 20p and 50p and getting a double digest and reading it. And I would wait. And sometimes the digest used to be the fat ones, the 500 page ones. You could just sit in a corner and just read a page and savor it and reread it and savor it. So but actually what I remember the most is going to the library and renting them.
For you, Reema?
We used to say borrowing them.
Yeah, no, my dad was a huge Archie comic fan himself. In fact, he used to fight with, we'd be in line to read them, when the digest arrived, and my dad would call dibs and sit on it first. So we always had Archies lying around the house, and I can't remember a first time. It was always there.
What about Archie and the world, though, fascinated both of you? You said something wonderful that for you it was the portal to the West. What exactly about the world and its character was sort of enduring?
It was the only comic strip about teenagers. And when you're a kid, you want to be a teenager because that's aspirational, to be older and look cooler. And so it was that was the only comic that was about regular teens. Everything else was either superhero or there was royalty or kings. And this was the only one that was that. And you could be them, you could identify with them, and the characters are iconic. There was humor in it. And there was a world, there was a gang of friends, there was things that they ate that I wanted, like the sundaes and the ice cream shakes and the things they did, parties, things that as a kid you want to grow up and do. Basically, that's what it was.
And in spite of being Western, there was also a very family values angle to Archies, which I think holds true of India also.
Right, it's quite South Asian.
Yeah, so I think that Archie in that sense was universal. A lot of people say it's westernized, but I don't think it's in that sense. The culture that it's promoting is a very universal culture that we could relate to. But of course, the rest of it, and we also, we were kids who grew up in a pre-liberalized India, so that had an added element to it.
Charm.
People were not as exposed to things as they are today.
Right. To both of you then, when you mentioned that it is, of course, it's a product from the West, but you have to make it accessible to those who sort of didn't grow up reading on it. How do you do that? At writing stage, at filming stage, how does that transition happen to make it more accessible?
Accessible,
it's the content.
I think it's the theme. I think thematically, what affects children today. Thematically, they're 17 years old in the film. And today, a 17-year-old kid thematically is dealing with what? And I think to be able to take that from today and put it in that kind of culture, and that world, and in that innocence, that was a trick for us. I mean, we don't know if it's going to work till it comes out, but at least that's what we tried to do. Yeah.
Was the casting difficult and how did you go about it? Because these are wonderful, fresh, new faces.
Casting is tedious. I won't say it's difficult. It's tedious because you have to scour through people, and we knew we wanted people that are not established because they have to be 17, and B, they are inhabiting very iconic characters. So when somebody is new and comes in, then you believe that this person is Jagat, this person is Archie, this person is, because you've not seen them before.
Correct,
so we knew we wanted new people, and I work with Nandini Shrikant and Karan Mali, and they're excellent, and they've cast all my work, and so we just did tests and tests and tests and tests, and then tested them again, and then retested in groups and tested in 2s and 3s, and
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a long process.
Yeah, it's a process.
It is. It took us very long.
Then I was like, this one can be this and this one can be that, and then halfway through on the third test, I realized no, actually this one is this and this one is that.
Yeah.
So it's a process.
Yeah. Can you tell me why Agastya, Suhana, and Khushi? I mean, why these three did you feel that they fit the part?
Once you see the film, you'll know.
Yeah.
But it's not just them three. It's also Vedang and Mihir and Aditi and Yuvraj. I mean, it's 7 of them.
Yeah.
And once you see the film, you'll know, because I feel that the essence that they got to that test, that core quality that makes a Jughead or an Archie or a Ethel or a whatever was there. They could capture the core essence of that. You know, you believed it. So that's why.
You know, but it's interesting, Zoya and Reema, if you can talk to me about it. What does this project sort of thematically, what does it talk about? Because you're talking about the headspace of a 17-year-old today, vis-a-vis what it was back then. What are we tackling here?
I think that's a spoiler, so I can't really give that out.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sense about where it would go?
I think,
Young people's thoughts.
I think what kind of world they want. I think what kind of world they want. What are they? How are they different from the generation before them, their parents, and what they're willing to do for it.
And what are the things that bother them? Or
what
what are the
bothers
things
them.
that's what is relevant to them?
Can you tell me about the decision of sort of basing it in an Anglo-Indian community? I think that's a fairly nice, lovely twist.
It hasn't really been done a
never.
lot. It's been it's Julie has been done, but
contemporary we have.
it hasn't been done a lot. It's also very charming, very pretty, visually pretty, because it's set in the hills, where Landor or Makalski Ganj, or the architecture is colonial. They culturally are extremely westernized.
I think that was it actually. More than the rest of it is the fact that this was a slightly westernized community that was an Indian community at that time.
And they were Indian. And it's interesting because we interviewed a lot of Anglo-Indian people and writers and stuff. And a lot of people that I interviewed were the only person in their family that stayed back in India. So they all had families that moved to Australia, families that moved to England, and I'd be like, "Why didn't you go?" And they'd be like, "Because this is my home and I love it." And so they're huge like
Indophiles.
this is their home. They were born here, and they feel Indian. So you'll meet like someone who you could think is Caucasian and completely white, but she only wears saris. There's that whole aspect of it which I found very interesting, and it's a new world. It's fresh, and it lent itself very well to the characters, to the names being used. So it just worked.
Something so wonderful about the show, the film was when it was announced. It came at the peak of conversation about nepotism, and I remember when the announcement was made, everyone flipped. Oh, this is like the peak of it. You have 3 quote-unquote star kids headlining a massive film like this. You think the debate has become very redundant, that it has no nuance when one looks at it?
It was always redundant.
No,
according
see,
to me.
there's definitely a conversation of have and have not. There is definitely a conversation of people with privilege, whereas people that not. That privilege, I mean, I would say maybe the film industry has become the symbol of it on some level, but you can't deny that there is privilege. You can't say it isn't there. But having said that, I think what people need to ask for is what they really want. Do they want better schools? Do they want better education? Do they want what do they want? You know what I mean? By denying someone a career of their choice, it's not going to make anything better for you. So I understand that there is, to the root of it, there is something, but just this conversation is not taking it anywhere. It's not changing anything. I mean, my parents came into the film industry. My father came with nothing. He's made his life here from nothing, and I have inherited A, his love for writing and film, and B, his contacts. Now what should I do? Not continue to do what I want, or not follow what I have learned through osmosis, or I love the movies. Why should I not follow that? And of course the audience, eventually you can't rig the game. If I was making films that nobody watched, I wouldn't have a job.
That's true.
So it's a fair game on a level, but there is truth to the privilege conversation, and that's a separate conversation. This is not going to help that. So I think we should look at it
holistically.
In this context, I really feel it doesn't hold at all. And at the end of the day, for us, like Zoya said, there's 7 people that we've worked on.
But people are talking about
the focus is on the 3.
And I'd love somebody to even remember the first names of the other 4.
It was really sad because there are 4 kids being launched, and they were robbed of that moment.
I did. I felt bad for them
And
because they were
people-
as excited. For them, they are
and
also
their
being
parents
launched.
and their thing,
And they were
robbed
completely
of that,
sidelined.
and that's not fair. And that's not
Yeah.
something we did or Netflix did.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
it's and you know, you're talking to me about nepotism. I'm born and bred here. It took me 7 years to get a movie made. You know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
She came.
Yeah.
And
I
made
made
it
my
before.
first film before.
She made her first film before me. So I mean, it's not so black and white.
Yeah, correct.
You
yeah,
know?
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's fueled in that way and
Yeah.
Yeah, I
told
mean,
in that way. You know.
I think it's.
But I wish people would be more nuanced with it and see it for what it really
Wishful
is.
thinking, those
you know?
Yeah.
No, and I also feel like, it's, there are certain industries that are soft targets.
Yeah.
I mean, go after politicians, tell them their children shouldn't, or doctors shouldn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that. I mean, who's out there and who's easier to hit?
Yeah.
Who's a sitting duck?
Yeah. Both of you work with the biggest of stars. How is it like to work with these bunch of excited, energetic, new voices? How was that like for you as makers?
It's I mean, I was nervous getting into it because
You were
I've
nervous?
worked with seasoned actors
Yeah.
that come in and they know their shit, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, am I going to have to work extra hard?
Yeah.
But I didn't. I mean, we prepped a lot and we workshopped a lot, and before you know it, they just hit the ground running. I mean, everybody was in their character, and you realize that I don't need to do more homework on them, and at
They're
the same
already-
time, they're so excited about every day. They are so there. They're like, it's just, I mean, I think I'm spoiled. I think it might be difficult to work with. I think I'm
Yeah.
spoiled.
I mean, for me, I've kind of gotten, the writing stage I was involved, I'm not as involved in the shooting stage. I am watching rushes. And the energy of those kids is blowing me. I think, the audience is going to have a similar reaction.
Yeah. I can't wait. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking to me. This really looks solid. Thank you.
Thank